It's Way Up with Angela Yee, and I'm here getting advice from Isha Sesay. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
She's changing my life already for the better. But I'm just so honored to have you here today. I told you I really admire the work that you've been doing ever since I first seen you on CNN.
Thank you.
And you know, you have a book out called Beneath the Tamarind Tree that came out some years ago. But you're a person that's been highlighting stories that other people don't touch.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I look at it, I think generally speaking, when it comes to stories about Black women and girls, generally speaking, they don't get as much attention if they get attention at all. So as a Black woman, and also specifically as a Black woman from Africa, I feel that having been blessed to have some form of platform and exposure, I need to use my voice.
And you are from Sierra Leone, and then you moved to the UK was it for school?
So it's sort of a little bit the other way around. I was born my parents are from Sierra Leone, both of them.
Okay.
I was born in the UK when they were doing second degrees, you know, that old post-colonialism story where these countries had, you know, European or French overlords, if you will, and then those people in those countries could go abroad and study. So my parents went to the UK, they had us there, myself, my brother and sister, and when I was 7, they moved us back to Sierra Leone. So I lived there from 7 to 16, then went back.
Why did they move back?
You know, it's really interesting, and I think about this a lot because it has meant so much to me and who I am today. They moved us back because they very much wanted us to grow up in Africa, to feel rooted, to feel connected, to never feel like outsiders, and to also. And now when I look at it, to grow up in a place that was majority Black.
Right.
Where, you know, my notion of what is beautiful, my notion of what is valuable, my notion of my own safety are paramount, right? Which in other places, like the US and the UK, is not the case, right? We are battling notions. Many Black girls are dealing with that issue of, am I pretty enough? My hair isn't the norm. How would I show up? How am I seen, reflected back to myself on screen, on social? So anyway, my parents gave me what I think is the biggest gift.
That's great. Did they see something? Are you the middle child?
I am.
Okay.
I am. Good research.
So did they have experiences there that they were like, we don't want?
I don't know I don't know if they could pinpoint something that happened to them that led them to the conclusion that it was important for their kids to be raised elsewhere or specifically in Africa. I think they themselves felt fiercely connected to Africa and wanted their kids to have that.
Okay, now also, I didn't even start with why we're here today, though, as we're talking about OK Africa, OK Player, but it's under a new name now.
Areya.
Areya Media. So just for people who are listening, OK Player, I remember when Questlove launched OK Player.
26 years
That
ago.
is crazy. He was so early and ahead of the curve, and
Absolutely.
I feel like he's like that with a lot of things.
Agreed.
But when he first launched that, it was kind of more like a connecting...
the music community, right? It was those who were passionate about music, passionate about the culture. It was a safe space for lovers of music and makers of music to come together and share opinion, vibe, disagree, talk shit to each other. And that's what they did. And in a way, it was like early social media, right? And it existed on something called the boards.
Yeah.
And
I remember those boards.
Those boards, right?
Yeah.
And they're still going. And I tip my hat to Questlove, just the foresight to understand that we need those spaces.
I just think back to how things used to be, because we didn't have Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, like
Easier
a time
days,
before
simpler
all
days.
of definitely the simpler days. But now it is also, I think, leveled us out in certain areas where people who didn't have access to be able to produce or do certain
Agreed.
things, or do an interview with a magazine that's going to come out, 2 or 3 months from now to promote. It does give people who are creatives.
I agree with that so much. I think also when you think about people of color and their access to opportunity, which they've largely been kept out of by gatekeepers, right? Who all too often, particularly in media, don't look like us. That has held back a lot of creators and a lot of people with immense talent who just maybe haven't had the connections or the opportunity to be in the room and to build. Social media has eliminated those gatekeepers in many regards and has allowed people to get in there and basically chart their own course, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
And get some instant feedback.
Instant feedback. I mean, I'm watching people do things on social media, and I'm like, how do they come up with that? Sometimes I can barely post.
And you're like, and I have a space for them now at Areya.
I do. And I think that's the other thing, it's been such a blessing to go from being at CNN for 13 and a half years where, you're largely at the beck and call of the executives who tell you where to be, how to look, what to say, what to do, to having your own autonomy and being able to lead an organization that is specifically created to uplift Black voices and create a space for Black creatives. That's amazing.
I think what is amazing about that is also being able to tell stories from our voices.
Yes.
And that's important too, because I also feel media is so powerful because they can choose what stories to highlight, but also choose how those stories are presented.
Completely.
So depending on what you watch on the news, you'll have a whole different view of what's happening in this country and around the world.
Yeah, I think that so much. I mean, depending on where you go in terms of the media landscape, where you're consuming your news, you are consuming it through a particular POV. And so, it is, and again, very often it is not too often it's not with us in mind, right? In terms of how those stories are being told. A lot of the stories, particularly if we're talking about Africa, for instance, may be about war, tragedy, disease, desperation, trauma porn, if you will. It's very different when you get to be in the position where you get to commission stories and commission what is told and how it is shaped. It's deeply empowering.
It's interesting now because I feel like narratives have shifted. I see so many people like, I want to buy land in Africa. I want to do this. Everybody was going to Ghana.
Yes. Did you do that Ghana trip?
I did not. I actually would rather go when everyone's not going.
Yeah.
So I was talking about that. The only place I've been is to South Africa, to Johannesburg. And that was an amazing experience.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I do say it's Africa for beginners, though.
Yeah. I was there for an event.
And listen, and it's
beautiful.
It
was for a women's event, but I also know that that flight is no joke.
It is long.
You got to have because I was only there for a few days, and I was like, next time I go back, I need to be able to be here for at least a couple of weeks.
You do, and to soak it up and to move between Cape Town and Johannesburg and, do wine country. It is stunning. The people are amazing. But I do think that, again, I'm biased. I'm West African. I fly my West African bias. I fly that flag proudly. You need to come to West Africa. You need to come to Seale for the food and for the beaches. And then obviously you need to do Nigeria and Ghana for the vibe.
I want to say when it came to the food there, everything tastes so much more fresh.
Yeah.
And I just think about how there's certain things that we eat here that are not even allowed
Oh, yeah.
in other countries. And it's like, I feel like America is the worst at that when it comes to what is the cheapest way to get this done to preserve it for the longest, no matter what risk it is to our health. And that's not just our food, but also
everything.
Yeah, everything.
Everything from our products, what we put on our skin, what we ingest pharmaceutically, what we eat on our dinner tables, everything. The level of regulation here is so prone to manipulation, and these large corporations, how they move is they move here so differently from the way they move in Europe and other parts of the world. We know that just in terms of the opioid crisis, right? What they were able to get on shelves here that they weren't able to get on shelves in Europe. So we know that our regulation, there's some gaps, which ultimately leave us as the victims.
Yeah, I mean, I tasted the difference. You can taste it in the food. I was like, this... It just feels amazing.
And I'll also say this, just being in Africa, the sun, the vibe, like the food just feels, it tastes, everything feels different, tastes differently. Your sensations are rewired to experience life differently.
And I think even with movies, with media, with people actually traveling and going, and the music, I mean, when it comes to Afrobeats and how that's also united everybody and made people feel like, this is where I want to be and I want to go here. I think that also all plays a large part.
Listen, the music and the Afrobeats being the export, the continent's biggest creative export at this moment in time is amazing to watch. I mean, we have a podcast that we're doing as under the OK Africa banner, Afrobeats Intelligence,
yes.
hosted by Joey Akan. And it is an amazing show where he gives you a front row view to how the industry is being shaped, the executives, the artists. We just shot with Tiwa Savage a few days ago.
Love her.
Joe Boy, Lo J, like great guests in this season. And just to hear and in those conversations how it has moved from back in 2016 when it really started to take off to where it is now, where people are selling out MSG, right?
Right.
That's wild.
Yeah. Like breaking records.
Breaking records, seeing, Burna Boy doing Boss, campaigns and, seeing, Thames on the red carpet at the Met Gala. These people have become global superstars. And it's not just the music they're bringing, it's the culture, right? And opening a window to Africa for people. And as an African, I mean, that's just beautiful.
Even seeing like, what I was just thinking about culturally too, sometimes like what's happens in certain parts of Africa and how we perceive it here is just so different.
Yeah.
And I think that's, true. Even like if we look at how we use words here and how they're, what But we also have to be accepting of that, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think sometimes Americans can be really arrogant in thinking that we're the center of everything.
Yeah. I mean,
it's the truth. When I travel, because I also think traveling, and for you, it's fascinating to me because you've lived in all these different places, right? So you're a person that's cultured, but I also feel like that makes you also have a lot more acceptance and understanding of people who are different than you.
Yeah, I am so grateful for my journey. I was born in England. My parents are from Sierra Leone. I live in America, so I'm what they call third culture, right? And now I have a daughter who was born in America.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
And so, it is amazing to have experienced all these different cultures and to have that understanding, that insight. And I think it makes you more empathetic. I think it makes you more open-minded. I think that's what travel does. And it allows me, I like to think, it allows me to move through the world with a level of ease because, just by virtue of those different experiences.
Now, you just mentioned your daughter. And when I first met you, I had to come up to you and tell you that story to me is something that is just beautiful. You decided you wanted to have a baby, but you had gotten divorced. And I saw you posting on Valentine's Day, looking at your wedding dress from out of storage.
Yes. Yeah, I hadn't seen it until that day.
Whew. That's, but
there it was. Like the box came out and I was like, oh, that's where it is. I was wondering where that had gone and what condition it was in. And I pulled out the dress and I was like, whoa, right? Like a different time and place. And when I wore it, well, first of all, my life was so different. I think I got married in my very late 30s. I think I might have been 37. And at that point, I thought, I was going to get married and have a baby and it would just be very straightforward. My mum walked me down the aisle. At age 40, I was getting a divorce, so it was a very short-lived marriage. I have like clothes that are older than than the marriage. Right? No shade to my ex-husband, who's a good man, just not my man, as I like to say. And by 40, I was divorced, and my mum had a catastrophic stroke. And then I spent like 6 years really just focused on her recovery, which sadly just did not go as planned. And I got to like 46 and I thought, wow, like first of all, where did 6 years go?
Right.
And my mother's illness did a lot for me. It really gave me, important perspective. My mother was an incredibly accomplished politician, academic, the first woman to be on the ticket to be vice president in our country in Sierra Leone. She helped rewrite the constitution. She helped mediate peace when there was a civil war. She did tremendous things. But here's the thing. I say all of that, but when she took ill and had this catastrophic stroke, it meant nothing.
Right.
It meant absolutely nothing. We strive for these accolades. We strive to be in the room. We strive for the assignments and these moments in the light. But A, your health is everything. B, when you take ill, it's really your family who are there for you, if they are, right? And I realized that I was a person who was there for my mom. And 6 years on, I realized that CNN, all of this stuff that I've done means nothing. I want to have a kid. Like, it really grounded me and helped me understand what is important. And I realized that my greatest regret in life if I came to the end of my life and I was asked, what did I regret? It would have been not having become a mother because I was chasing glory or.
And that's an issue a lot of very accomplished and successful women have, is that you kind of keep on putting it off.
Right.
Now the conversation about freezing eggs is such a way more, something I never even thought about when I was younger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then you decided to...
So here's the thing. So I got to 46 and then I started dating an actor. And are you allowed to curse on the show?
Yes.
Okay, he was so shitty, right?
But you still was like...
I was like, but and I was like 46, 47, and I was like, okay, so let's see where this is going. Could he be? I mean, he was never going to be the one. I mean, he was, again, good guy, but way too broken. But I was like in this really tortuous relationship, which triggered all of my like abandonment issues and just like, it was just a lot. And the relationship ended. And I'll never forget, like, he was like, we're supposed to hang out. And then at the last minute, he's like, I can't. And I was like bawling my eyes out. And I was just like, this is shit. And I remember I was in New York at the time. I was like, I'm going back to LA. Packed my bags, got to LA. And I thought, I can't do this. Not only can I not do this relationship, I can't wait for another shitty guy to like waste more of my time. I'm just going to have a kid. I'm just like, it was literally, and I actually call him my Buddha. I call this guy my Buddha because it was my path to enlightenment.
Right.
Like, I'm not mad at him.
He served a purpose. He served the purpose of you realizing what it is that you wanted to do.
Totally.
And to also, because you could have said, well, because a lot of times women do this too. You're like, I got to hurry up and have a kid. Whoever I'm with, I'm just going to.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then now I have to deal with this person.
Totally. Right. And then I did see him while I was pregnant. And I said to him, I was like, he came round and I was like, thank you so much for being so shitty. Because, you led me to this place. And he was like, can I be godparent? And I was like, fuck no, you can't be godparent. Why would you be godparent? No, you can't be godparent. So
these men,
like literally. So, but now I have a 26-month-old beautiful girl.
She's so cute. She has your whole face.
Thank you. I used a donor. I went through the site. I looked them up. Now it's so amazing. You can hear their voices. They give them questionnaires. They do all the screening, all the testing. Wow. It's like, it's a thing. It's not like, oh, those shoes sort of
look. You can hear their voice?
Yeah. You can hear their voice.
Do you get to keep that? So
yeah.
Wow.
And you get baby pictures. And for me, the donor that I chose, I was struck by his acknowledgements of the importance and the power of Africa and how it's like at the center of civilization and how more people should go. And I just found that really...
That is amazing.
Like really touching that he had that.
Do they have the option of if they want to ever meet? Okay, did he want to?
No.
Okay.
And I chose him because of that.
You're like, this is my kid, all right?
Listen, I wait all this long time, not so that I can deal with you. So, but I also am aware of the fact that where we are with genetics and things, 10 years from now, she will, if she wants to, probably be able to find him if she wants to.
Right, right.
Just by virtue of the way science is.
Because you do that
23andMe, and then she'll find
you're like, there's my cousin.
There's my cousin, my cousin's cousin.
That's how people find out who their parents aren't, too.
I know, right?
We've seen that happen. Like, I thought my whole life this was my dad.
Yeah,
and
like, it's my uncle. So it's just, but like, I'm grateful. People often ask me, they're like, do you miss not having a man as part of the experience? But you can't miss what you never had. And I have a really great village around me that were around me as I was going through the pregnancy. And I had my baby, and my daughter has a lot of, like, I have a brother, I have lots of great men in my life who provide that male figure.
Did you date while you were pregnant?
No.
I'm just asking because some people would feel like, I've seen it in movies. That's
and they feel vulnerable and they want, and I get it.
Yeah.
No.
You're like, no,
I didn't. And even now I think a lot about, people ask me, they're like, will you remarry? Like, how do you feel about dating? I'm totally open to it, but I always say he has to be worthy of us, and he has to be a person of great moral character, someone who's stable and settled, preferably someone who's been married before, so they've done this before. But yeah, and someone who's just not out looking to run streets.
Okay. So maybe not somebody younger.
Funny enough, all the men I end up like dating tend to be younger than me.
You look very young.
I mean, I'm 49.
Which is great.
So thank you. So most of the time, men are slightly, even my ex-husband was slightly younger than me. But I think they just have to passed or crossed certain thresholds of life, have been through certain trials, at which point it's not the age per se, it's the life experience, which if they've done those things.
Yeah, because I think people in different cities here in the U.S., they're different when it comes to maturity.
Yes. But you tell me about that.
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking? Like between, let's say, New York,
New York,
Atlanta.
I feel like in New York, people get married later than they do in, say, the Midwest.
Yeah.
I feel like family starting earlier is more of a thing.
Yes,
like
agreed.
people settle down earlier, and I also feel like that about like further south.
Agreed.
But I feel
Atlanta,
like
those
New York
places.
might be the last place, and maybe LA too. Like people wait later.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely agree with that. I think there's definitely a sense. I think maybe it's just there's so much more to do. There's so much more life to be experienced. Yeah, I lived in Atlanta for 10 years. No shade to the folks in Atlanta, but it's like, what else am I going to do if I don't get married around here, right? So it's just, and I got married in Atlanta, so
Yeah,
I'm
there
speaking
you
from
go.
experience. That's, and so, but in New York.
But and even for you making this decision, right, with IVF, I know there's a lot of judgment that comes to that,
Yeah.
especially age-wise, because people would be like, "How dare she
You-
have a
and-
baby?
yeah.
That's so selfish." When you're this, I've seen all of it online, and so not about you, but just in
Yeah, yeah.
general, I
As part of
see
the
people
narrative
saying
and the
that when
dialogue.
somebody's like, "I'm pregnant," and this is something we should celebrate. Because to be honest, I was talking to my girl Latham, who's a doula. We had this whole conversation about it.
Mama Glow.
And yes, Mama Glow, love her. And she was just saying how back in the day, people were dying a lot earlier, diseases, they weren't having the modern technology, the science that we have now. So yes, it was a lot riskier. But nowadays, if you take care of yourself and there's so many things that you can do, you can be 47 years old and
have a baby and live, a long, healthy life and, God willing, and be there for your child till they reach, a level of like adulthood, right? And so I don't think I listen, my mother had me young and now my mother's incapacitated, right? So who knows how the dice is going to roll. Right. So there's someone who had a baby young and now she's not here for me.
Right. You
in
can't
that way.
predict what's
You
going to
can't
happen in
predict
the
what's
future.
going to happen. And so you can't live in that space of fear. I think all you can do is make sure that the time you have with your child, you are very present and you pour into them, and you prioritize them, and you will be doing your part to create an amazing human being, right? A person who does good in this world, who brings light into this world, and the rest, it's beyond your control.
Now, your other baby is Areya Media.
It is my other
so I want to make sure we discuss that. You changed. So as far as creating something new and evolving what that is as a media conglomerate, what made you say it's time to change the name? Because I know there was like some drama with the previous CEO. I saw Questlove, even when he had posted, there were some issues there.
Yeah, there was some darkness there, in terms of chapters of past chapters before I joined the company. And so it was previously known as OK Media, which is really a riff on OK Player, OK Africa. And so it was called OK Media. And then there was this unfortunate chapter that, brought a lot of disruption to the company, and the person before me in this role left. And so when I joined the company, candidly, I'm not one for living my life in half measures of like just being okay, right? And so for me, the name always felt a little meh, a little just mediocre. Like the brands themselves mean something,
right.
OK Player, OK Africa, like they meant something. But OK Media in and of itself, I always thought there could be a more dynamic name. There could be something that means more. And so in light of everything that had gone on, I really just did not want to take that baggage on myself. And so I came across the name Areya, which means sunshine and light, which to me was a beautiful way of turning the page on the darkness that had come before, that dark chapter.
Perfect.
And I also felt that it's also part of the mission, right, to bring our stories into the light. And so that's why I settled on that name. And, again, people are always like, why did you change it? We needed a new beginning. You
know what I love? I saw an interview where you said you wanted to focus on meaningful work versus controversial.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big, significant difference, because sometimes people think in order for it to hit, it's got to be controversy because controversy sells. And we see these, these headlines that are just shocking that will make people be like, it's clickbaity, and that's what gets people going. But for you, it's more about being meaningful. It doesn't have to be controversial.
Yeah, it's more about being meaningful, being impactful, right? I always say, while we want to entertain, we want to inform and uplift as well. And so it's really important that the work we do kind of broadens people's horizons, provides a different perspective, deepens their knowledge and their insight. You can go other places if you want clickbait stuff, and listen, I'll click on it myself, but that doesn't mean I want to
scroll through social media.
I don't mean I want to be the producer of it. And again, people can chase numbers, and I get it. Media companies, you want audience, you want reach, you want impressions. That's all important. But I would ask whether I would question the durability, or I'd question the loyalty of those audiences and the sustainability of those things. What we're trying to do is build, we're 26 years old. We're building something that endures because it's meaningful, because it's high quality, because we are doing it to serve a higher purpose.
What do you think about now, even just talking about journalistic integrity and things that are happening? A lot of people are also covering this Diddy trial. And I'm seeing so many things online and a lot of jokes.
Yeah,
too.
I find it really troubling.
And a lot of incorrect reporting, or people that maybe aren't, I could say, they're not necessarily qualified to be able to explain what's really happening, because it also gets very distracting.
Yes.
And people also will be reading things that are just simply incorrect.
That's right.
So responsibly reporting on that, because everybody now is like online, like, girl in court today, let me tell you, and it's starting to feel a little bit like people are also thinking, well, what did he do wrong? He just was having freak offs. He just likes to have sex, but they're not understanding how this is all unfolding and working. Like, even in the first couple of days, I saw people just acting like, this is a wash. He's getting off scot-free, but it's so early to be able to tell.
Yeah, I just think that the Diddy trial is so, I find it so disheartening in terms of the reactions that have been online to Cassie's testimony, and how people have minimized this woman's trauma, and in some ways almost like, in some places, lionized,
like she got 30 million.
Like she got 30 million.
What she got to worry about?
What she got to worry about? And you have all these people now in this space where the bar to entry for media and having your own platform has been lowered through social media. Everyone can click their camera and turn it on themselves, and they can speak. While we love the democratization of access,
right,
it comes with a responsibility and a cost, when now you have people who are ill-informed, ill-prepared to deal with something as complex and tragic as this, just spouting, right? And spouting wrong information, helping form really wrong-headed notions about this, not legally trained, not in any way even mindful of the fact that some of the things they're saying are triggering to other survivors out there. That are, it's just, the whole thing is just, to me, it's just really disturbing to me, as you can tell. This is something that, I'm not saying you can't have an opinion, but what people aren't doing is putting that caveat, I'm not a lawyer, this is just my opinion, right? And kind of like, and knowing how far to go. Right. Instead, you have people like, as you say, saying, oh, he's going to get off. They haven't proved that it's, RICO. They haven't proved it's racketeering. I was like, what do you know?
Right. And it's still nowhere near.
It's nowhere near done.
Yeah, nowhere near.
It's nowhere near done.
People were mad that Kid Cudi took the stand.
I know. But what does that say about, about society, that people are mad that Kid Cudi spoke out, and people are mad that that they're trying to hold this man accountable? Why?
Right.
Why? What does that say about how they value women, how they value our places and our safety and our voices?
It's interesting to see this happening parallel with, Megan Thee Stallion and people attacking her at the same time.
Yeah, it is. But it just comes back to this thing, in terms of the value of Black women's lives and our safety, and our bodily integrity, and how somehow that's a toss-up. Like, how much do we care about them? Like, how much do we want to protect them? Versus, particularly if a man's position is on the line, or certainly being challenged. And I just find it like, I don't know how we are going to correct that. I don't know how we're going to correct that, to have black men understand that they should want us to be safe, and they should want to see the men who harm us held accountable. You know, I don't know how we make that the norm versus it always being about let's protect powerful black men.
Right.
And I don't know what that is about. I don't know why they are considered more important and that they feel that they should be able to get away with bad behavior. I mean, the R. Kelly thing as well.
Right. And people don't understand why women also find it difficult to
speak up when this is the reaction that they're going to get.
As soon as you do speak, people have jokes, people are attacking you, people are saying it's your fault, people are saying you wanted it, people are saying, well, why didn't you say something the moment that it happened? And there's a lot of reasons.
There's a lot of reasons, because there is the fear of not being believed. There's the fact that you've, in many cases, been groomed and psychologically broken to not even realize the extent of the abuse you're enduring, to somehow even take on the blame that maybe in some cases of violence that somehow you asked for it and you're deserving of it, to feel that there's, you know, the shame if it got out. There's so many complex reasons, and I just wish those would be acknowledged. And then again, even when first it goes and there's a range, it's she lying. Then it's, oh, she's telling the truth, but she deserves it. Or, oh, she's telling the truth, she didn't deserve it, but it ain't that bad.
Right. Or she got her money.
She got her money. Yeah. Like,
because I think the other misconception is people think that if you're doing a civil suit for money, that means that's all you want.
No.
And that's the truth is that certain cases like rape is very hard to prove.
Yep.
So a lot of times just because you can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean
you have to go the civil route. And I will say this, and I've said this before, my level of admiration for Cassie, my level of deep appreciation for what she did, because we all have to acknowledge that what she did wasn't just even about her. It was about every other survivor, and helping them understand that you don't have to live in shame. Your life isn't over. You can start again and you can rebuild. And that was the most powerful example of that. And I am in deep, deep awe of that woman and the strength it took at her stage of pregnancy to do that, and to look him in the eye and say, this is what you did to me. Now, it's a whole other case that they have to prove, but the fact that she got to say her part,
right?
I think she should be Woman of the Year. I really do. I think it's
I mean, that was a lot of things to have to get up there in front of the world and say and be honest about.
In front of your parents, in front of your husband, you know, even if they knew, but to have to say it publicly, knowing that there are people who are going to be judging her and looking at her. But, you know, I think what her husband said was, again, also incredibly beautiful and moving. He did not heal her. She healed herself.
And so for you, thinking about now, like you said, bringing that darkness that was with the previous CEO and how your style of leadership is and how you are restructuring things at Areya, a.k.a. OK Player and OK Africa, what can we look forward to?
Oh, gosh, there's so much. I mean, before these, you know, in the last couple of years before I joined, these were straightforward, like just digital outlets, digital publications, websites. Basically, you could access us by going to our .coms, or you could just go through to our socials. But in the 4 years that I've been in the CEO chair, the focus really has been on turning it into a multimedia company. And so aside from the .coms and the socials, we now have our own studios, OK Player Studios, where we have digital originals like digging. So any, you know, artists out there who want to come in and be part of the show, where you dig through crates of records and talk about what they mean to you, you get to pick your selection. We have OK That's Funny, our own comedy show. So we have digital originals, a whole slate of this. And I started a podcast division with Almanac of Rap, hosted by Don Will, being our very first one that just won a Webby.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big deal.
Thank you. And now we have a whole new slate of shows that are dropping in May, including Afrobeats Intelligence that we talked about, To Be Clear, hosted by Dawn Montgomery with Freddie BTV.
I saw them at the event.
Which is amazing. They are such a talented duo, sort of giving you that take on the news and what's happening through their own lens. They're sharp, they're funny. and they're smart. They're wicked smart. And then another show called No Wahala, which is sort of like a comedy skit show, like young diasporans, sort of like Daily Show, like just that kind of witty take on what's happening. And then we also have a show coming out much later in the year with Seun Kuti, Fela Kuti's son.
Oh, wow.
That is going to take on more an Africa view and a kind of, some might say, controversial view of some of the narratives around Africa.
Okay. I'm looking forward to all of this. And I know when I was there, they're like, so if you know anybody that, has
who wants to do a new show, who's got some show ideas, somebody who might want to partner, like we have full production services. We have a great team. Obviously, we have vibrant socials with big audience, big reach. So we're looking to partner.
I love that. And it's interesting. I was having this conversation with people who are also starting podcasts or thinking about it. And so some people feel like, well, it's oversaturated right now, and I don't feel like there's space. But I feel like things always break through when they're really great and they're consistent.
Yes, I think that's the key, consistency. And also patience.
Yeah.
Right? Like people want overnight success.
People be thinking like, oh man, this only got X amount of views. It's not working, but it takes a while.
It takes a while. When you look at the top 10 of podcasts currently, when you look at, whether it's Armchair Expert or whatever it is, they've been around for a minute. None of those shows just like popped up and just, stormed to the top of the charts. So it takes time. And also it takes time for you to refine your craft and your voice and really figure out what the show's hook is. And sometimes that iterative process takes time.
Well, this is great. How do you see this growing in the future, too? Because I know you already have plans. I mean, you've been there. You've been restructuring.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a full rebrand.
It is.
And also, like we said, evolution is important, too.
Yeah.
So taking it from what it was, it's been around, as we know, for 26 years, which is quite some time. But in order to continue to grow, it's got to evolve.
It's got to evolve. And, we want to make sure that we have a slate of programming. I always say that, now they're not a great analogy today because their share price continues to drop. But I always say that we're a little bit like Nike. Like we are that brand where whether you're listening to our podcast, you're buying our merch, you're getting our newsletter, you're checking us out on social, there's something for you here. And my mission is basically to make us a daily habit for folks, a household name, so that at some point in the day, you are engaging with our content.
That newsletter helps. That newsletter. I get the newsletter. Is Questlove still involved?
That man has won, for Oscars, and he's busy on the road producing multiple films. So he's not involved in the day-to-day, but we like to think of him more like as our spiritual godfather, right, at this stage.
All right, love it. Well, Isha, thank you so much for coming through. And when things are happening, whatever you need for us to amplify, I know we're going to be working with some of your podcast hosts too to come on.
Yes,
also on my podcast, Lip Service, we're going to have them on there too. Because I do want to make sure that I'm working to also elevate what's going on there and what you have. Because I think you're amazing.
Thank you. And I think you're amazing too. And this has been such a treat. And super excited to see all the things you're doing, and also just to congratulate you for the moves you've made to step into your own light.
Thank you. You won a Gracie. I just got back from the Gracies. Way Up just won a Gracie as well. So we're proud of that. But the work that you've done, listen, the Gracie Awards, I love. That is an amazing space to be in, to see all these other women who are empowering each other. And so just things like that I think are so important. But how can people reach you if they're like, or your team, if they want to reach out? What's the best way?
I think the best way, listen, slip into our DMs, send us a note. Keep it clean, slip into our DMs. I am Isha Sesay on IG. Reach out to us. And, again, reach out to us via OK Player online or OK Africa. You can directly DM the teams. We're constantly checking. But seriously, we're looking to grow this family, and we want more diverse voices, all ages, all generations, as many stories as we can tell, because we're building something special.
All right. We might have something for you. Okay, perfect.
All right.
All right. Well, it's Way Up.